Okay, let's move along with Sukkot. There's not too many days left to learn the dinim of Sukkot. Okay, Sukkot we learned. That's as far as. Now, out of Sukkot, it says in halacha you're supposed to give a lot of tzedakah, more than always. Also, if you need a haircut or cutting your nails. What? So you take a haircut Friday, not on Shabbos.
No, I mean giving tzedakah.
Erev Sukkot, the day before Sukkot. Friday, Erev Sukkot, you do extra tzedakah. If you need to cut your nails or cut your hair, because if you don't cut your nails, you can't cut them during Chol Hamoed, by the way. And the mitzvah is to wash, to go to the mikveh. There's an inyan of going to the mikveh before Yom Tiv. A person Friday afternoon should not eat a lot of food, because then they won't be able to eat in the sukkah the first night, which is a biblical mitzvah. They won't be able to eat with enjoyment and so on.
What's the reason to give extra tzedakah before Sukkot?
The Rebbe writes he didn't see anywhere the reason, but I don't know. That's what it says, the Mitzvah Rebbe, but whatever. The Rebbe writes he didn't see a reason, whatever. Okay. Also, many people have a custom that they bind the lulav and esrig out of sukkahs in the sukkah. It doesn't say clearly after midday. The Rebbe used to do it after midday. But I'm saying in halacha it says out of sukkahs in the sukkah is when you bind the lulav and esrig together. Now, because it's Friday night, so you have to remember a number of things. Everything is to be ready before Yom Tov starts. Now, if you have a sukkah, then you're supposed to light the candles, the Yom Tov, Shabbos Yom Tov candles in the sukkah. Now, the problem is when you finish eating, let's say you have an expensive candelabra for Shabbos, right? So if you light it in the sukkah, on Yom Tiv, not Shabbos, on Yom Tiv, when you finish eating, you can carry it in, even if the lights are burning, because Yom Tiv, you're allowed to move flames. But Shabbos, even after the candles' flames go out, you're not allowed to move the candle holder that was lit that Shabbos. So if somebody has an expensive candle holder and they're going to bring it into the sukkah, just keep in mind you're going to have to leave it there until the end of Shabbos, because you can't take it back into the house. So many people they'll use cheaper, like tea lights or whatever, and if they don't want to bring their expensive candle holder into the sukkah. Okay, now the candle lighting is, you have to be careful, it's Erev Shabbos, so you can't light late like you would on Yom Tov. So it's Lad Dekner Yom Tov and Shechianu. Okay? If a man lives alone, he doesn't make Shechianu or candle lighting because he's going to make Shechianu at Kiddush. Okay, now as far as the Sukkah itself, the mitzvah of Sukkah and the things that you have to do. The first night of Sukkahs, just here this Friday night, is a biblical mitzvah you have to eat in the Sukkah, even if it's pouring rain. You have an obligation to eat at least a kazayas of bread in the sukkah.
What if you don't have?
Then you try to go to somebody's sukkah or a public sukkah, no really, to at least have an ounce, make kiddush and have an ounce of challah or bread or matzah, whatever, because there is a biblical obligation that even if you don't have the sukkah, to find the sukkah, that you can at least the first 2 nights.
Have one here.
You have this sukkah, it will be a big sukkah here, Mitzvah Shem. Not the first night. The first night you actually need bread. First 2 nights. Second, the difference is the second night, if it's pouring, you don't have to sit in the sukkah. But the first night you do. The biblical mitzvah is at night. First 2 nights. Now, let's get into the din now. The din is that there's certain things. Now, okay, in our circles, we don't eat or drink anything out of the sukkah for 8 days, including Shmini Atzeres. Even if it's pouring rain. I mean, here in California, we don't have that issue, but not in other places in the world, like New York, it pours and pours. So then, we only drink and eat in the sukkah. We don't do anything out of the sukkah. We even make a leisha basukkah. When halacha says if you eat in the rain, you don't make a leisha basukkah, but Chassidish poskim, not only Chabad, a lot of Chassidish poskim write that even during the rain, you make a leisha basukkah. It says if you eat in the sukkah, you're called a hedyot, a simpleton. So Chassidim would say, I'd rather be called a hedyot than not to eat outside the sukkah.
Are you allowed to have an umbrella?
No, you can't have an umbrella on Yom Tov for Shabbos. And then if you have an umbrella, it's a question if you're nullifying the schach of the sukkah with that. Anyway, let's get into the minute. So, now, besides the first 2 nights, okay, what things obligate a person to sit in the sukkah? Now, what does it mean, obligates? If it obligates you, then you have to make the leisha basukkah. If it doesn't obligate you, then even though our minig is even water we don't drink outside of the sukkah, the only time you can make a bracha on things that halachically you're obligated to go into the sukkah to eat. Now, what is that? Generally speaking, it's 2 ounces of bread or 2 ounces of cake. That's what obligates a person to sit in the sukkah according to halacha. Now, wine is only if you what's called, you make a kavua, you establish a wine party. But even then, it's questionable what that means in halacha. But like, we hold that when you go make havdalah in the sukkah, that you have to make havdalah, in Chabad we make a leisha basukkah on the havdalah itself. Because the fact that there's a mitzvah to make havdalah, that makes the wine into a kviyas, into established, thing of prominence that you'd make a leisha basukkah.
Not everyone else does that, by Havdalah?
Not everybody does it.
But on wine, usually you don't say leisha basukkah?
Normally on wine, you just go into the sukkah, drink a cup of wine, you don't make a leisha basukkah. But if you have 2 ounces of bread or 2 ounces of cake, then you're obligated to go into the sukkah. Because you're obligated to go into the sukkah, then you need to make a bracha, leisha basukkah. Now, the first night though, but everything else, you don't make a leisha basukkah because technically, halachically, you're not obligated to, that you must go into the sukkah. Excuse me.
On Havdalah, you do on Havdalah, you do this.
We just said, yeah. Make a leisha basukkah. Now, so technically, a person can have a full dinner. They can have fish and salad. They can have soup that doesn't have a large matzah ball in it. That's would be mezainis. Then you can have prime rib with potatoes and rice and a bunch of things with 3 different levels of ice cream for dessert. You don't make a leisha basukkah on it because you're not obligated technically to that you must eat in the sukkah. But if you eat a piece of cake, 2 ounces, so then you have to make a leisha basukkah.
Even the first 2 nights?
No, the first 2 nights you have an obligation to eat bread. Now the difference is an interesting difference according to our custom in the kiddush of the first night and the second night. Besides the fact the first night is Friday night and second night you have to do yak nahaz because it's Saturday night, so you make, havdalah in the kiddush itself. But the first night, we first make a leisha basukkah and then we make shechianu. Second night, we make a shechianu first and then leisha basukkah. Which means as follows. The first night, why do we make shechianu after the leisha? But normally, the last thing you make, you're making kiddush. Normally, you make kiddush and then you make a leisha basukkah. If you're eating bread, you make a meitzi and then leisha basukkah. By kiddush, only the first night, we make shechianu after leisha basukkah. Why is that? So it says in halacha that really, you should make a shechianu on building a sukkah. Building a sukkah should demand a shechianu by itself. Why don't we? Because the purpose of building the sukkah is to sit in it. So when you make kiddush the first night and you make the shechianu by kiddush, it also goes on the sukkah. So therefore you make a leisha basukkah first, and then the shechianu is also going on the leisha basukkah aspect. In other words, the building of the sukkah. Second night, you make a leisha basukkah, the yan, because shechianu you made already for the sukkah. So now you make a shechianu, leisha basukkah at the end.
But ladies say shechianu on the candles both times?
Both nights they do. Only Rosh Hashanah is a problem, which we do anyway, but both nights of Yom Tov you make a Shechianu, but the second night, okay, we'll get there, but okay, let's go with a system over here. Okay, so the first night you make Kiddush, you have to wash, have a meitzi, eat in the sukkah. Our custom is to use honey on the first 2 days of Sukkot, like we did Rosh Hashanah, that stuff. Now, what happens if somebody was eating in the sukkah anytime during the whole Yom Tov? They're eating in the sukkah, and they didn't make and things that obligate you to make a leisha basukkah, okay? And then you realize you forgot to make a leisha basukkah. You're in the middle. You're supposed to you wash for bread. You're supposed to make a meitzilach minos leisha basukkah. You forgot to make a leisha basukkah. So the din is, as long as you're still sitting in the sukkah, even if you finish the meal already, you can still make a leisha basukkah. Why? Because just sitting in the sukkah is a mitzvah. Even though it doesn't demand a bracha, but you were doing things that did demand a bracha, and you're still sitting in the sukkah, so you're still part of the mitzvah of sitting in the sukkah.
Even if you benched already?
Even if you benched. As long as you didn't leave the sukkah yet. Now, what happens if somebody leaves the sukkah and he goes back to the same sukkah? So let's discuss the following scenarios. Let's say you eat breakfast in the sukkah, you washed, you made a meitzi, everything, and then you're going to eat lunch in the sukkah. Lunch. And then you're going to eat dinner in the sukkah. And you like bread, so you're going to be washing at each meal. Okay? So the question is, when I finish breakfast, I know I'm going to eat lunch in the sukkah. When I finish lunch, I know I'm going to eat dinner in the sukkah. But if it goes more than 2 hours from the time you finished, even though you knew you were going to come back, you still have to make a leisha basukkah. In Shechnarchus, it's an hour or two. Okay? So an hour or two, if you finished eating and you know you're coming back, but 2 hours went by, you have to make a new leisha basukkah. What happens if it's less than 2 hours and I know I'm coming back, less than an hour, let's say, then you don't make a leisha basukkah, because you already made it. What happens though, if you ate, you left your sukkah. Let's say you ate dinner, okay? You washed, you ate dinner, you made a leisha basukkah, you finished eating, you benched, you're going into the house. Also, and a friend comes over, he says, no, let's verbring. Let's have a verbringen, and you're going to have cake. So because when you left the sukkah, your mind was not to come back, even if you come back 3 minutes later, you have to make a new leisha basukkah. If you eat enough, that would demand a leisha basukkah, like 2 ounces of cake or 2 ounces of bread. Or another case is, what happens if you go sukkah hopping? I finished eating in my sukkah, benched. I know I'm going to your sukkah. I come to your sukkah. I'm going to eat another bunch of cake or bread. You have to make a new leisha basukkah. I go to the third guy's sukkah. You have to make a third time leisha basukkah. If it's different sukkahs, even though you knew you were going there, but the fact that it's a different sukkah would demand a new leisha basukkah. What? Doesn't matter if it's a different sukkah, because you knew you were going. But the fact that it's a different sukkah obligates you to make a new bracha.
Even if you made the motzi to continue eating on that.
Yeah, because it's a different sukkah. Even if, by the way, even if the same sukkahs are in the same courtyard,
Yeah.
a different sukkah demands a new bracha. Again, only if you're eating, you know what's demanding. What?
So if it's an hour or two, that's my sukkah, and my talis,
By 1,000 ones, 2 or 3 hours.
2 or 3 hours.
The Alter Rebbe has different amounts for different things. And in Ksei Shulchan, Rabbi Avram Chaim Nor writes, Sarachin, he doesn't know the reason why there's a difference between sukkah and tefillin and things like that. But the Rebbe does answer it. The Rebbe explains, because a normal sud in the time of the Gemara is an hour. So if you're Maidach in Yesuda, it's 2 hours. So by eating, it's an hour or 2. Tefillin, according to Alter Rebbe and Tanya, is supposed to ram an hour and a half. So then it's already 2 hours. If you're Maidach b'tefillah, it's 3 hours. So therefore, by davening, it says 2 or 3. By Sukkah, by eating, it's Su'udah, so it's 1 or 2. The Rebbe answers, it's gedrucked already, it's printed all, it's sichas alone.
So on Kippur, if somebody finished, most of at 2:30 and then down 3 hours later, they're putting it down half hour.
If it's more than 3 hours, you have to make a new bracha. Yeah. If you have a 3-hour break, you'd have to make a new bracha, even though you knew you were putting it back on. Yeah. That's why you make a bracha at night, and the next morning you make another bracha. Why? It's the same day. Why you make a new bracha? It's not really the same day. You make a bracha before Shkia. Okay.